Welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Shively, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and I'm on a 1 million pound mission. I've personally lost over 100 pounds. I've helped my hometown lose over 35,000 pounds, and now I'm on a mission to produce over 1 million pounds of results by helping you gain clarity about what you need to do to reach your goals and give you the confidence to take action. And my friends, the perfect time to start taking action is now. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy, Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 214. We're talking about losing 200 pounds, gaining it back, and losing it again with my friend Mike Giannulis. And before we dive into this one, and it is one hell of a good episode, let me tell you, I've never heard a story like this before. You're going to love it. But before I forget, after the episode, I'm going to give you more details about Million Pound Mission University, how you can get your ticket, why you want to get a ticket sooner than later, and all the juicy details of the event. I'm super psyched about it. I'm kind of like pinching myself because I pulled off something really, really special here, and I can't wait to tell you about it. Hang out after the episode. Now, when we're talking about weight loss, as most of us know, the weight loss process can be super hard. In fact, it might be one of the hardest things that we ever do, right? So what makes it even harder? Well, when we lose weight, I talk about this all the time. When we lose weight and we gain it back and have that feeling of having to start all over. Now, I want you to imagine that you're somebody that is in need of a major transformation overhaul, and you've been selected to participate in a popular weight loss television show, and you rock it, you crush it, you lose 200 pounds, you change your life. But 9 months later, before your episode even airs, you've gained every pound back. How do you feel? What do you do? How do you react to that? Now, that is the exact situation that my guest today, Mike Giannulis, found himself in. And like I said, this is a really good story, people. You're going to really love this episode. Mike and I, we talk about how he got to the point where he was weighing over 500 pounds to begin with. We talk about his experience on the Extreme Weight Loss television show. We talk about how he lost 200 pounds, gained it back, and lost it again, and how he's keeping it off and his mindset around all that. And then he gives some great advice for somebody that's in that same situation as where he was, where somebody that's lost weight and regained that significant amount back, and how to get our heads around that and start moving forward. So really, really good episode. This is one I've been looking forward to for quite a while to putting out. And I think you guys are going to really connect with this no matter where you're at on your transformation journey. So without any further delay, let's dig into episode number 214, losing 200 pounds, gaining it back, and losing it again, with Mike Giannulis. All right, Mike, welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. How are you doing today, my friend?
Hey, man, doing good. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm psyched because you have such an incredible story. It's a unique adventure. Each weight loss adventure is unique in and of itself, but you've got a really cool story, and I think my audience is going to just eat it up. So I wanted to kind of start off. At one point in your life, you weighed over 500 pounds, and a lot of the questions I get are, well, how does somebody get to that point? So tell us the story of how you got to that point, and then we'll work forward from there.
Yeah, sure. So my clock-in heaviest weight that I was ever able to see on a scale was 540 pounds. Now that was on, and if you've been that big, you'll kind of understand this, that was on a freight scale behind a hospital, because you can't just go buy a standard scale. I used to think, I wonder if I could buy two scales and put a foot on each and add them up, but it doesn't quite pan out like that. But yeah, for me, my story is, sort of typical in a sense, but then not totally, is that I never made what I call like the conscious choice to be overweight. I never said, hey, I want to, you hear a lot of people and their dream is to get back in their skinny jeans they wore in high school. That was never me. So basically I grew up with a family that loved me. I mean, like surrounded with that. It was like they were like intense about that. But that also came with, this idea of if you love me, then eat what I feed you. I give you this food, you better eat it all, and you better enjoy it. And I had my grandmother. It's kind of an ironic thing, but she basically felt like I was too skinny. Because around age 3, 4, 5, I was really small, kind of, thin. And she was like, she was from Alabama and grew up on like country, fried everything.
Yeah.
Like for real fried everything. And she was like, we got to fatten him up. So probably when I was around 4, she started feeding me every day a pound of bacon, half a loaf of bread, 2 or 3 eggs, grits like covered in butter, and I think my kid brain associated, because she would feed everyone else and make them go, and then I would get time just me and her, and I would sit and eat all this food, and like I think my kid thoughts were like, hey, this is how you get that tension, that love. It's all about this food. Because, we make a lot of associations when we're young with a non-logical brain that sticks in there. Yeah. So for me, by the time I was 6, she did a very, very good job. She fattened me up really fast. Because from 4 to 6, I remember being in kindergarten and I weighed 69 pounds.
Okay.
Which I think, that doesn't sound like a lot, but I think when you're in kindergarten, that's big.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the average weight, but I know I was bigger than pretty much any other kid. And so by the time I got a little bit older, I was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as I said, I didn't really ever feel like I had a choice in that. It was just kind of like I was always the big kid from such a young age. And as I grew up, I continued to turn to food as like my source of fun, because I grew up in a church that was very strict, and even to this day, I've never drank alcohol. I've never done any drugs or anything like that. And so I think that I got a lot of my like excitement in dealing with stress and all those things was all food.
Yeah.
So everything for me, things were good, food, things were bad, food, always about going to food. And I recall then getting a little bit older, and I think I was around like 17. This is weird because I just have these certain little thoughts in my mind of times when I had to weigh in front of other people or as part of a school thing. And I remember being around 16 or 17, and I was out of state for the summer, and I was with this guy, and he was like, hey, man, let's see how much you weigh. And so we got on the scale, and it was some freight scale, like on a Illinois farm, So yeah. I get on this scale, and I weigh 359 pounds. This is around like age 16 or 17. Okay. And the reason why I recall that so well is because the kid looked at me. He said, 359 pounds, man, 1 more pound, you'll be a complete circle. That's, And I was like, but that was high school. So I was always that big kid, and, for me, I was very much, because of my size and the way I thought about myself, I didn't try to go out with anyone. I had every now and again, like once a year, some girl would like ask me out or something through a friend, and I'd always assume it was like a scam. I'm like, no way. I would just say no, because I figured she was gonna be like, just kidding, you're fat. And I was like in my head,
Yeah.
So I just recall being that way. And then as I got older, and when I got a job, my first job was actually at Subway. And then because I was like the Jared back then, I gained weight eating at Subway. I was like eating like steak and cheese with bacon and all this stuff on it, And so I started to really pack on the pounds, and until eventually I got all the way up at about age 28, 27, 28 was when I hit that 540 pounds mark. And that for me was a combo of, because, that's the thing. I was always a big guy, but I wasn't like massively huge, So it was a big jump when I went from around 400 to like 500 up. And a big part of that was my job and depression linked to that job, just being so stressed out. I was kind of like becoming a partner in a company, and I worked all the time, and I was just like this, like in a desk all the time. And the hard part was one of the owners basically decided that she was going to go on her own, and she left. And so the whole company kind of fell upon me. I had one other person who was like the operational type, but I was supposed to do the marketing and the writing all the ads and managing it all. And that for me, I was young. I think I was again like maybe 27, 28, and it was really, really tough on me. And I took it all very, very personally. And again, I went to food, and I just ate and that was like my only fun. That was all that I had. So I would work all the time and just eat if that wasn't it. So that was pretty much, I think it was around going back in time here, like 2009-ish, beginning of 2010. That was like my bottom for sure. I mean, I was so big at that point. I just recall like, it was hard to even like stand up and do much of anything because I had always been relatively active. I think that was one advantage that I had, was even though I was bigger, I still could like play basketball, play sports, and do stuff. I don't know how, because now I look back at old stuff. I'm like, how in God's name did I do that? I have no idea. Because I would meet people and they would be like, how do you play basketball? I mean, like they would be like shocked. I even had one time I went to like a doctor checkup, and the doctor was like, I want you to begin to exercise. So if you would just watch like a show on TV and just kind of, stomp your feet or clap as you watch it. And I was like,
oh my God,
I was like, should I stop playing basketball? He's like, you play basketball? It was like a shock,
Yeah. Wow.
So anyway, so for me, it was a combo of never, and also I didn't ever grow up eating the right foods. It's still a struggle for me. I'm always tempted to the wrong foods because that's what I grew up with. That's what I like in my head. It's always playing that, devil on the shoulder, angel on the other one,
Right.
That's like, I joke about it because like if you were to come to me and say, hey, dude, do you want to take a hit of this crack pipe? There's no thought going, do I? No, I said, I'll be good. No crack for me, But it's like when it comes to like bad foods, it's like everything's a possible yes, right? So it's always that part of me. And I've always been like, man, I wish that I had grown up like one of those kids that are like, I just drink fruit smoothies and veggie trays, like I wish that was me. And that was just my go-to mindset. But I think it takes time. It takes a lot of time to work those things out. But anyway, so that's kind of how I got to where I was.
I mean, it just seemed like you had a perfect storm of, obviously not growing up with great nutritional, baseline. You don't know what to eat. You don't know what healthy feels like and tastes like and looks like. You've got some depression. You've got stress of all these things being heaped on you. And at some point in the journey, you decided to reach out and ask for some help. And this is when things started to make a turn. So tell me about how you made the decision to reach out to the television show, the Extreme Weight Loss television show, and how that shifted directions for you.
Yeah. So, I guess I should jump back and say I was always trying to drop weight like we all do. I mean, pretty much anyone that's been overweight has been on at least probably 20 diets, right? At some point, it's like you try it. And so I was able to like drop weight and, maybe lose 50 pounds, 100 pounds, which for some people that's a lot. But when you're 400 plus, it's like the average person dropping 5 or 10 pounds,
Right.
So I was always trying stuff. And then I actually had one of my aunts, I think, saw that one of those weight loss shows was coming through town, and they were doing like partners that year, like the interesting partners. So it was for the biggest loser. So it was actually a different show. So I went and went with my cousin because he was also big. We went as like cousins because that was like a different angle because it's always like spouses and stuff, So we went and we tried out for that. We got pretty far down the way, but we didn't get picked. And then maybe a few months after that, I got a call from the same production company. They were doing a different weight loss show, which was Extreme weight loss, and they called me out to apply for that one.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I guess I'll go. So I went and I applied for that, and I actually got to like almost the finals. Like it was like there was a very, very long, but then at the last second, I didn't get picked. So I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? You know? And that's when the whole job thing was at its peak. It was real bad, and I finally quit that and was out and had a few bucks saved up. So I was kind of like, what am I going to do for the next year? You know, and I'm not sure. And then I got a call that they were starting to do season 2 of that same show, because it had been like a few months had gone by, and they wanted to get it started early. They're like, they're like, we'd love for you to come out again, see, you know, if it's a fit. And I was like, sure, I'll go. But in my mind, I'd already been turned down twice.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I totally went into it with like the worst attitude. I was like, they're never going to pick me. This is so dumb. I just went. I think that may be why I got picked, because I didn't care. You know how they say, like, if you want to get the girl, like, don't, you know, be the cool guy. Like, it was me. I was just like, hey, what's up? You know, I didn't care at all. And I just thought I bombed. I thought it was a terrible interview. I thought it was real bad. But I got back home, and then maybe a week or two after that, they gave me a call. So I'm going to turn my phone off so it doesn't ring anymore. Sorry about that. And so they called me, and they're like, great news. You're going to get flown out to L.A. And I was like, cool. I still didn't believe it, you know, like in my mind. And I remember the girl even on the phone, like, aren't you excited? I was like, yeah, sure I am. You know, because this didn't seem real to me. So that was sort of how that process went down. And then I got to L.A., and there was like, I think they flew out like 16 people, but they were only going to pick 8. So they wanted to kind of like meet us, interview us. They put us through all this like health stuff. I got our hearts checked out, like all this stuff.
Right.
And quite the experience. And then finally you go back home, and they're kind of like, hey, we want to film some other stuff. You know, we're going to send out a crew. They just want to do like some footage of you and your family, see how you guys do. And then ABC will make the choice if they want to bring you on or not. So I was like, cool. So they got there, they filmed me. And at the end of that day, they were having me doing actually a Skype call just like this with a client of mine at the time. And suddenly the host of the show jumps into the Skype call. Yeah. It's like, Mike, I have a job for you, but this time I'm going to be your consultant. And so it was like a flip of the whole spin. And I had no idea. Like, I was truly shocked. So that was kind of like getting picked. That was how they kind of did the whole little spin. So you didn't know. So that began an incredible journey that started right around 2010, around June, July, I think, May, so somewhere in that time frame. And it went all the way for 1 year. And being on the show was pretty cool because I learned a ton of stuff. I got taught about nutrition and exercise, weight loss strategies. I learned about like things like called carb cycling.
Yep.
All these, you know, neat things. But at the same time, it was also way too intense. I think we didn't know back then. There's been a lot of studies that have come out since this where they've learned that just like massive rapid weight loss wrecks your metabolic rate. Yeah. You know, we'll come back to that because that was kind of my post-show stuff. But what I found throughout that 12 months, now the thing for us that was neat was it wasn't like we got locked away in some little place. We actually stayed at home. We kept jobs. We had to pay our bills still, but we had to exercise 5-6 hours every single day, except for Sundays we got off. That was like the one day off. And at that point in time, I think when I started the show, I officially weighed in at 493 pounds. So I had lost some weight before the show even started. So I started at 493. You know, 6 days a week, we were doing an hour of weights and then 4 to 5 hours of cardio, just again and again and again, just every day. And it doesn't, I mean, sometimes for some people that sounds like a lot. Some are like, that's not that bad. But it really is, because especially when you think about being almost 500 pounds.
Yeah.
I would sleep probably like 12, 14 hours a day easily because my body was just beaten, like trying to walk or jog as I picked up the pace, just for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, it takes it out of you. So I did that though. I just did what I was told, ate what I was supposed to eat, and we combined a few different things with the way we ate. We did a very, very mild form of carb cycling.
Yep.
But we were a lot more strict and a lot more hardcore on calorie cycling. I'm not sure that's the right term for it, but basically one of the things that we were taught was, we view calories as a day-to-day thing. So we look at it like, okay, eat 2,000 calories, right? But apparently our bodies don't follow like a 24-hour time clock like we do. So one of the strategies that we did, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, I'm just saying this is what we did, was we would kind of have higher calorie days, and then we would have lower calorie days. And we would combine the lower calorie days with the lower carb days. So for us, Wednesdays and Sundays were my favorite days because that was like my 2,500 calorie days and like carb days. Like an apple never tasted so good, Like Sunday morning I would weigh in and I would like run home and eat an apple and drink my shake. Like, oh, I'm so good, But for us, we would have these. They would be very extreme though. Like the low calorie day, the low calorie days. Some days would be like 1,000 calories, 1,200, and that was all part of being able to drop the weight consistently because it's extremely hard to go from what I did. So how I ended on the show, after 12 months, I went from 493 to, it's been so long since I actually said this one. Let me make sure I've got it right. I think it was 238.
Yeah.
So 493 pounds all the way to 238 pounds was kind of like my final weigh-in, which was cool because the goal was for me to lose half my body weight. So I think I dropped, I want to say it was like 52 or 53% of my overall weight. And that was pretty epic. It was a very cool thing. Even now I look back because when I was 500 pounds, right at the start, the very first thing that they had me do was a freaking triathlon.
Yeah.
That was like my day one. I did a triathlon. It was not huge, but it was like a 200-yard swim. I want to say like a maybe 2-mile bike ride and then like a half-mile jog. And boy, it took all I had,
Yeah.
6 months from that point, I weighed about maybe 320, 300 pounds. And they had me do a Olympic distance triathlon. And that was like a 1-mile swim, a 25-mile bike ride, and then a 10K run, which is 6.2 miles. And I did all that in about 4 hours, just over 4 hours. That was like the highlight for me. That was like super cool because,
I remember watching your show. I'm a fan of the show. I remember watching it when it actually came out. I remember the Skype call, the whole thing. I vividly remember all this. So one of the things I talk about on my show and with my clients, I talk about what I refer to as the transformation timeline. And there's 3 phases. The first phase is you have to get coachable. You have to let go of your ego. You have to let someone else teach you something. The second phase is trying to find some balance between your health and your lifestyle and find that happy medium where you feel good about both. The third phase I call new purpose, new identity. And I feel like a lot of people that go on a large weight loss journey, this is where they hit that struggle point because they're used to being that person that's the weight loss person. We're on this hero's quest to lose, and we're talking about it, and that's how people know us. And then all of a sudden, we're done losing weight, or we're close to the end of that journey, and we start to fade back and gain weight back. So I feel like the next part of your journey is the really, really interesting part where things started to backslide a little bit. So let's talk about that. So the show, you're done filming the show, but there's a gap between when the show is done filming and when it airs, and some stuff goes down in between, and you start feeling the pressure of that air date. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so there's a lot, and there's even more beyond that, which I don't know if you were able to do all of the research, but we'll go into that as well. So yeah, basically the show ends, and the way these kind of shows work, and I don't really blame them. It's not really their job, but pretty much it's like, okay, we're done. All right, see ya. Poof, gone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Now the host, Chris Powell. I've always said this, and I always will. He was an incredible person, just incredible. I still chat with him sometimes via email and stuff. We'll check in. He emailed me and said, "Hey, dude, show's over. This, but it's just getting started, you know." And kind of like what you pointed to, going back to that coachable thing. At that point in time, I think I was like, dude, I lost all this weight, man. I got this. Yeah. You know, I was very overly confident because it had been and also that whole thing too, that is, I really like what you just said there, because a big part of the ego thing too is when you're on that weight loss journey, everyone is hyping you up 24/7.
Yep.
Dude, you look so sexy. Look at you, man. Oh my gosh, the girls are going to be all over you. Like, you know, you're just going around 24/7, people saying how awesome you are. And I think that's like the thing they say, don't believe your own hype. You know, I think that's what there is a piece to that. So I was kind of like, yeah, I think it's Chris. I got this. Yeah, I'll follow along with my food plan. But then it's kind of like, oh, I can eat this. Oh, I can have that. And I can do this. And yeah, so I think by the time I think the show ended filming, I want to say it was like September. I think it was in September. And my episode didn't air until July. So it was a long time between that. And by the time it was getting started to air, I probably had put on 70, 80 pounds. I mean, even from when the show finished, within a week, I probably had put on 20 or 30 pounds. And part of that was to get that goal weight. They did the whole like fighters flush thing. You know how you get a fighter to go from 240 to 208 like within a week? Yeah. It was that kind of thing, just so we could hit that scale weight. So not all that was, you know, fat back on. But for sure, I don't think I had really changed in my head that much. I think I'm such a goal-driven person. Like, I'm an achiever. There's a test called Find Your Strengths, and my top strength is achiever, which is awesome, but also has the dark side. The awesome side is I'm driven like a mofo. Yep. Like, you give me, you know, if I have a goal that I want to achieve, it's like crank me up and go. I'm going to do it. But the dark side to it is, achievers usually get no real satisfaction from the goal being done.
Right.
It's the pursuit.
Yep.
That I love, and the challenge of that pursuit. And so once the goal was done, which is what Chris was trying to email me about, was like, dude, it's done now. You've done it. What's next? Yeah. And I think I didn't have anything. So the identity part is really great, because I think I still struggle with that. That's still a thing that I need to get down right. So I basically, by the time the show was about to air, I don't remember the exact, but I was probably 330, maybe somewhere as maybe 320. I was getting up there back to, you know, being close to 100 pounds from where I was. It might even be more. I don't even know anymore. It's been so long now since I've already talked about it. But so I actually kind of dropped everything, went to Arizona, where Chris lives, because he emailed me and said, dude, if you want to come out here, you know, I'm here, which is how cool that the guy is, you know. Yeah. I was just some guy on a show, you know, but to him, it's like, he takes it.
Yeah, he really cares.
For real. He does. He truly does. I told him he cares too much. I'm like, Chris, you gotta slow down, man. You're doing way too much for these people. That's how you know. But anyway, I did a bunch of stuff with him, and I probably lost like 40 or 50 of those pounds. And I kind of, at that time, really fell into the OA thing, which is Overeaters Anonymous. And that helped me a lot for a time. And I actually met my wife during that time, which you're probably not supposed to. I think it was say when you're going through those programs, you're supposed to not date. Yeah. But that's when we met and stuff. And you know, for me, now again, this is just me, because I think that program does great for the right people and at the right times. And they've shown a lot of studies that is a very good program. But what I've learned sort of after the fact and sort of through that experience was addiction for me. With the food addiction side, it's a two-way street. And most people don't ever think of it like this, but this was a breakthrough that I had. Was most of us think my addiction makes me eat whatever I want, right? All these bad foods. And there's a truth to that, because you get that F it, I don't care attitude. and you just, you start with like eating one thing you shouldn't, you think you shouldn't, then it turns into 2 or 3, and it turns into like just the weekend. Oh, now it's going to keep going, and all of a sudden it's been, weeks have gone by, and you just don't care, you eat anything you want. That's the most common manifestation of a food addiction, is the lack of control over what you eat, and the lack of, at least you're acting like you don't care, because you're saying addiction manifests itself by the blocking of consequences in your mind. You think, no consequences, I'm gonna eat whatever. Well, there's a flip side to addiction, and this is where I think I see people falling off a lot, and where I did. And the flip side to addiction is, instead of the complete total loss of control, it's the complete control of control. So it's like, okay, I'm going to freaking weigh every ounce of meat that I eat. I'm going to weigh my chicken. If it's an ounce off, I'm going to cut it down. I'm going to control everything I do. I'm never going to have sugar again. I'm never. And the worst part is, we do that from a Sunday night to Monday. Like, like we're going to completely change everything about who we are in 8 hours while we go to sleep. So I found that I was turning my addiction into a control issue. Yeah. So either I was out of control, or I was completely in control, and I was going to do the craziest things that I could think of to show that this thing wasn't going to defeat me. So it wouldn't just be like, hey, I'm going to start eating a little better. It was, no, I'm going to do a 3-week veggie fruit fast, and then I'm going to do 3 weeks of this protein cleanse, and I'm going to do, it was like, and these were like extremes. It was like, I'm going to, for breakfast, I'm going to eat chili powder, like just all the random stuff that you would see and hear. Yeah. And so I think for me, that's where I went a little bit too far off. And I kind of thankfully began to see that as kind of the same coin, but two sides. Right. So for me, it was about trying to find balance, which now here's where my story really takes off. I don't know if you got this far or not in your, going through my stuff, but I ended up, after the show aired and everything was done, I basically started having a lot of health issues. Part of them linked from the surgery that I had at the end of the show. They removed skin, like 15 and a half pounds of skin. Wow. So I had a lot of issues from that. They hit some lymphatic system stuff. So I swell up sometimes. I still do. I had like a weird hole open up in my stitch line. So a lot of the early weight gain post the show was kind of tied into that stuff. But I kind of did the same thing that many people do once they kind of fall off, was like, well, who cares anyway? I just eat whatever. And slowly and steadily, I actually ate myself back all the way to exactly 493 pounds. Wow. Which is, it took me about from end of 2011 till probably like 2015 or so, That's incredible. And what's crazy is, to show you how smart the body is, it's like, oh, we're back to 493. All's good. Because there is that whole concept that science has shown, that there's kind of a set point that your body wants to be. And so at this point in time, man, you talk about someone that didn't want to be seen, didn't want to be heard from. Like, it was so hard, because I would go to, like, I remember being at like a party and people would see me, and there was a guy that was like, how's it going, Mr. Extreme Weight Loss? I guess that didn't pan out for you. Like, people, they felt like, because you're on a show, it's like, to them, you're just a character on a TV show, so they can just say whatever they want to you. Yeah. What the hell happened to you? Like, there's no filters. It's just like, say whatever. And it was almost like I was almost scared to go out to eat, because I felt like people would be like, hey, that's that, like the pointing and all that. And so that was a very, very hard time. Thankfully, my family was cool. They accepted me. They were trying to get me help and try to figure out something. My wife was super awesome during that time. She'd always be like, I made you this healthy thing. I'd be like, get away. I wouldn't want to eat it. It was really weird. Like, I was in such a bad place in my own head, when it came to that area.
Yeah.
Just a real struggle. So then my health just started having all these problems. So I ended up like getting sleep apnea back even 10 times beyond what I had it before I dropped the weight. I developed diabetes, high blood pressure. It was just like problem after problem. My heart was like beating way too fast for my size. I went to a cardiologist, and he was like, basically your heart is meant for like a Pinto, but you're like a semi truck.
Yeah.
So your heart's not got the engine to drive this thing,
Man.
And so it was real tough times. And this is where I was at like a complete loss. Like, what do I do?
Right.
What in the world do I do now? Because it just seemed like no matter what I tried. So I actually did like almost a year-long weight loss, trying to get the weight off again on my own. And I did low carb and the same things I had learned on the show, but for me, the weight loss would not come off. I think I got down to maybe 450, 460,
right,
which is crazy because before it would just come off so fast. I was getting older too. I'm sure that was part of it. But then I finally went to a doctor, did like a whole like basal metabolic rate, the baseline, the BMR. And I found out my metabolic rate was like a 0.64 out of 1.0.
Yeah.
So almost just about half. So my calorie burn, even though I weighed close to 500 pounds, I think I was only burning 3,200 calories per day, just being me, you know?
Right.
So it was extremely hard for me to eat less than that, which I tried, but it seemed like no matter what I did, and because of my health, it was hard to exercise, all these problems. So my doctor suggested I look into weight loss surgery. And I was like, hell no, that's not me. I'm not that guy, because I'm the guy that does it all on his own. And I get no help. It's coming back to that ego thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I did it once, and then everyone around me is like, you've done it once, you can go do it again. And so I tried for that year. I had diabetes, all this stuff. So finally, I found out about a procedure called the duodenal switch. And the duodenal switch is basically rarely done. It's really only if you're really big, and you have a lot of other health issues. And it basically is a procedure that makes your stomach smaller, but it also readjusts your duodenum, which is why I call it the duodenal switch. And it helps you to malabsorb, to be about balanced with what you should absorb if you were a regular metabolic rate person. So after about a year of back and forth, I went ahead and had that done. And the craziest part of all is within 2 years, I went all the way from 493. Actually, within a year, I think I went down to from 493 to about 250, maybe 260. And then the next year, it was going on 3 years now, and it's I'm all the way down now to 205 to 210. And the biggest things the biggest change was my metabolic rate. And that's something that people don't talk about a ton, but my metabolic rate now is actually I think it was 0.98.
So it's coming back. That's nice.
It's basically almost perfect, because the charts are 0 to 1, And so I'm a 98%. They say that's about as high as it can be. So the cool thing is now that I only weigh 205, but I burn something like 2,700 or 2,800 calories every day.
Right.
And so people say, oh, well, weight loss is an easy way out, or that's the reason why you drop the weight. That's it. It's a combo of things. So I got the surgery, and that has helped me a ton, and I won't deny that. But at the same time, I've been in the gym since the day that I could, since the day they set up that I could go back to the gym. I've done weight training, and actually next week, I'm actually, knock on wood, I may have to call you back for some advice, but I'm going to start doing a bodybuilder program. Nice. So we'll see how that goes, if I can keep up with it. But I've been very, very conscious too of the idea that I don't want to overdo anything in one way or the other, right? So I think in times past, I've become so obsessed over those kind of things that I made them big. I mean, I was I like the whole drastic, I call it drastic Mondays, right? Like on Monday,
Yeah.
I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., do a 5-mile run, come back, drink a egg drop shake thing that I had never had before in my life, and then I'm gonna ride my bike to the gym, and then I'm gonna do weights for 2 hours. It's like, then I'll get to work by 9:30. It's like, what in the world, man? Yeah. Yesterday you sat on the couch all day long, right? So it's like there's got to be balance in that kind of structure.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been about like for my probably my first 6 months going back to the gym, I wore jeans and a shirt. I didn't even care. I wasn't even trying to get way into it. I just was trying to develop the pattern.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go, and because I know the trick is once you get there, it's fine, right? It's just the getting there.
Right.
So after about 6 months, I made the choice, hey, I think I want to wear shorts now so I can do more squats or whatever, and now that's been going on, I could say almost 3 years. So now I'm the one saying, you know what, I think it's time. I think I want to go from 3 days a week to 5 days, and I want to add more weights, and I want to start to really eat even tighter. So that's been a big key. I think until you're ready to make the change, it's always going to be a struggle. It's always going to be like people say, how do you go to the gym all the time? How do you make yourself go? For me, that's the trick. I don't make myself go. I like it.
Yeah.
And that's
huge.
Yeah. And that's where I think people need to get, because I couldn't do it. Like willpower is only so strong, right? It's only going to take you so far. So you've got to find something that you like to do. And even at first you don't, just do like the least that you can do that you don't mind. Right. And then build on it and build on it. So that's the approach that I have.
That's something I talk about a lot. My audience is probably nodding their head like, yep, Adam likes what he's saying. Because I talk about that finding that health and lifestyle balance. What people don't realize is that when your momentum is going the wrong direction, you have to be out of balance and add a little bit extra energy towards that health side of the equation. But then we try to find that middle ground. But it's all about, to develop a lifestyle, you first have to develop habits, and you have to develop a habit. Like you said, you may be a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but you get in the groove of that habit. Eventually, you're like, I actually like going to the gym, and I'm going to wear shorts, and I'm going to do squats, and you're into it. So what is that balance? Like, as far as goals go, like, what is that balance that you are kind of craving? What does that look like for you? Like, what's that ideal situation where you're in your groove with your fitness, you're healthy, but you're also, people get so caught up in, I don't want to feel like my lifestyle is being like held hostage. I still want to be able to go out and be social. So what does that look like for you? So for me, it's always being improved on. Like I feel like my food choices are like 50% what they should be. I eat way less, but I still eat a bunch of the wrong stuff. So for me now, it's about starting to not, I think at first I was so focused on weight loss. That's all I thought about. But now I'm thinking about, okay, how do I eat so I don't die when I'm 65 because my heart get a dog if I ate so much crap, right? So now it's more like starting to think about how do I make those changes? And I'm going to take the same approach with doing a lot of research, doing a lot of study on what are like longevity foods and what are things I should totally avoid, what are things that are okay sometimes, and I'm going to start kind of like creating my own line of chart, because I also know a thing that I once heard, and it's really it's just changed the way I think about everything. Like, we are not slaves. Like, we cannot enslave ourselves. Yep.
So like, especially when you think about it, the human spirit is all about rebellion, right? I mean, most people, you tell them, don't do this thing, and now I'm going to do that thing because you said not to, right? So we run the risk of doing that to ourselves, right? So for me, it's about, okay, what can I accept now? What can I happily accept? What can I sort of accept? What will I not accept, right? And then categorizing it, and then over time, and I've seen this, is as you get more and more into it, then you're going to make the choice. Okay, you know what? Before I said I would never eat this food because it's so bad, but you know what? I'll try it. It's a Thursday. I don't care anyway. I'll just go try it. You know what I mean? Like, and then you add it in. You're like, maybe that's not so bad.
Yeah.
on the flip side too, I don't want to become so obsessed that I'm like the guy out on a Friday night where everyone's eating and I'm just like chicken, broccoli, stop. Oh, why am I here? I don't want to become that guy. So it's about finding that balance, but also for me, as I've said at first, now it's moved from the weight loss to health. Yeah. And that's a big piece for me. And, I think when I have a kid, so my wife and I are in the planning stages of to have kids. Nice. I think that'll be a big piece to it as well, because that'll kind of give me a little more driver. Like, hey, I want to be around. Cause I'm gonna be like an old man dad. That's what sucks for me. I'll be like, I feel like by the time I have kids, I'll be like 40. Yeah. So I'll be that guy that's like, kids, your grandpa's here. I'll be going to pick them up from school. So I want to make sure that I live, good enough time so I can see their grandkids, or my grandkids, their kids. So that's also kind of a background. One thing I'll add too, for anybody that's very overweight, and I always say this, like, be really careful when you're going to the gym, because a lot of, especially like the young, really fit trainers, they literally have no clue about what it's like when you're 300, 400 pounds. Yeah. And in their world, all they can assume, the reason why you don't want to do something is solely because it's in your head. And there's an element of truth to that. But there's also an element of truth that when you're 400 pounds, you shouldn't be pounding your knees on a treadmill trying to run 8.0. And I think that a lot of these trainers, it's not that they're bad people. They just don't know. Right. They just think, oh, man, fight through it. Just go. And so use some common sense there, and don't be afraid to say no to some of those things. Like, they won't even, when I was on the show, I wasn't even allowed to jog till I was under 400 pounds. They're like, you can't, don't just walk. And truthfully, you get more out of that anyway, because you'll walk way longer than you'll jog, So anyway, I just bring it up because that's the thing that I tell people all the time.
No, that makes
especially
sense.
Because I think there's an element to being very obese that you want to punish yourself for your bad choices. So you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to make sure that it really hurts. There's this like self-punishment thing that at least some of us go through. So I'll just say that to.
No, that's a profound statement that you just made. Just the mindset of people saying that they need to punish themselves, and getting that relationship of, I've eaten really bad today, and do your Psycho Monday routine.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. So I know we're getting short on time. I want to make sure my audience knows how to just follow up on your story. The thing I like about you is that I know that you realize that you are a work in progress and that you are in the trenches, like you are fighting the battle currently. And anybody that's dealt with obesity and obesity mindset is that that's the deal, is that we're always overcoming food addiction. We're always, we have to eat food. It's not like cigarette smoking where you can just stop smoking cigarettes. Food is there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm the, obviously I never reached 400 or 500 pounds, but I was 327 pounds. I know what it feels like to not be able to stop eating. I can crush. You take me to a food contest today, I will kick everyone's ass. I've won donut eating contests. It's a bottomless pit. But so, first off, how can people connect and follow you, your journey, and just kind of see what you've got going on? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah. So basically the best way to find me, contact me if you'd like, is my website. Now it's basically for my more corporate, but I do talk about on there. I do like weight loss stuff sometimes, and that's onlyonemike.com. That's ONE, so onlyonemike.com. If you go there, I have a category called weight loss, which is kind of weird because you can go back and see posts that I wrote in like 2006. Yeah. And some of the stuff I'm like, this is terrible, and some stuff I'm like, this guy's a genius. It's like it's weird because it doesn't even seem like it was me. It's just so long back. So there's some stuff that's cool, but everything on there, not everything on there is something that I think now, so it's just, that's my experience.
Yeah. I really enjoyed reading your blog. I think it's really well written. I think it's very honest, and that's what people need to hear. And just, your mindset and your body have changed back and forth so much. Success leaves clues, and we can learn from everything you've been through. And I just appreciate you being open and honest and being willing to share that. I mean, that's huge. That's huge for us as an audience. So last question, if you got like one more minute for me here. All right. Let's say that there's somebody out there that has lost a significant amount of weight and they're listening in and they've regained it, or they're starting to regain it, and they're feeling I refer to this as weight gain guilt. They feel like I got myself into this mess. I need to get myself out of this mess. They're unwilling to ask for help. They're unwilling to really look at new options. What would you, if you could sit down to that person and talk with them right now, look them in the eye, what would you say to them as far as just getting them to kind of wake up to the situation, or getting them motivated to start moving in the right direction again, or just opening their eyes to the possibilities?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I would say, because I think that I've actually just had this conversation with a friend of mine, and the first thing that I would want to say to them is don't beat yourself up, don't blame yourself, because in reality you're fighting against science. Your body has this inner desire to regain weight because it thinks that you're starving. So it's actually behind the scenes. Your body is like increasing the production of hunger hormones. I think it's called ghrelin, leptin, yep. All this stuff is like booming through your body. That's why when you drop the weight, all of a sudden you're like, God, I'm starving, because your body is trying to say, eat something. So don't beat yourself up over that. Also, the voice in your head that's saying all this stuff to you. So many times we think that that's us. We're the voice in our heads. This blew my mind when I read this. We are not the voice in our heads. We are the awareness of that voice. Yes. Really think about that. Like, we're aware of that voice. We can go, like, I responded to the voice, which is probably makes me weird, but it's like, no, voice, stop saying that. But I mean, think about that. There's a lot more going on in our heads than just that voice. So we're behind that voice, and we can control it. So the biggest piece of advice, though, is don't be like me, because we have this tendency to close ourselves off and say, okay, well, I'm back again. I've gained weight. There's guilt. There's fear. There's an embarrassment. We don't want to see people. I experienced that times millions, because I was seen by millions of people on a stage, thin as I had ever been. And then within a year, everywhere I go, I was, back to being that old guy again. So don't, and then it's hard because I know how that feels, but you got to open yourself up and like you were saying, reach out for help. Find someone who's been through that, because there's no one way out, right? It's not like this is the way out, that's the door. It's like we all have our own journey. We all have our own body types. Some of us respond better to certain ways of eating. That's why I think there's so many diet books, because they do work for some people, but not all of us, right? So you got to find your thing. But the biggest thing is, don't get in your own head. Don't blame yourself. Don't beat yourself up, and just reach out, ask for help. And I mean, no one that's been through it is ever going to judge you, because we know, like, we've been there, and we're not far from there. We're all only a few bad choices from being right back to where we were. So it's not like we're some special species of person, it's just, we're all the same. So anyway, yeah, that's my advice there.
Mike, man, I appreciate your time. Again, I appreciate your honesty. I mean, I know it's hard. I know that it's hard to kind of recall some of these memories, but I appreciate your courage and kind of diving back into that, and the courage to share the story and put yourself out there so others can learn from it. So it's an honor to chat with you, my friend.
That's been awesome. Thank you so much for the time. And I'm I love to share this stuff. And if I can help anybody, feel free to ask. I'll do whatever I can.
All right, everybody. As always, I want to put you into action at the end of each interview. I want you to be entertained. I want you to be inspired, but I want you to grab onto something and think about, in the next 24 hours, what can you do with that something, and put yourself into action, because that, my friends, is how we get out there and own it every meal, every workout, every day. I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you got some big time value out of my conversation with Mike Giannulis. What a great story. And speaking of great, I mentioned before the show, I'm doing something new. I'm trying something out here at the end of April. It's my very first ever £1 Million Mission University, and the cart is open. You can get your tickets, and you want to get your tickets sooner than later, because I'm doing something special. It's not just an online summit where you get to see amazing presentations by these 18 of my favorite people that I've had on my show that are requested by you guys to come back for more. That's special in itself, but I'm doing something extra special. We're doing some roundtable discussions. I'm holding small group discussions where you actually get to interact with these people, and it's going to be awesome. Those seats at the table will go quickly, first come, first serve, and you don't want to miss out on that interaction. I will record those. I will load those conversations up into the course for everybody to view and have forever, but you want to get your seat at the table and ask these experts the specific questions that you want to ask them directly. It's going to be awesome. Head on over to millionpoundmission.com and get your tickets for Million Pound Mission University.